With the Apple Watch Series 5 coming out in a mere 3 months, I don't feel like people understand that. Next generation Apple Watch is dropping within 90 days. In fact, probably less than that, given the event is probably going to take place before the 17th of September. Statistically, there's a good chance of it being within the first couple weeks. And we really have nothing to go off of. There is very little evidence, very little leaks to suggest what we should expect at this September event, aside from the triple camera iPhones. We know all about that, but when it comes to the next gen Apple Watch, we have nothing but a couple rumors. Quo basically said that they would be bringing back the ceramic Apple Watch edition, as they used to call it, and other than that, not much. So in today's video, I'll be detailing on why even yours truly, the Apple sheep, may be skipping out on the Series 5 this year. Let's begin. So a lot of people, I think, have smartly assumed that given the Apple Watch Series 4 was likely the biggest upgrade to the Apple Watch we've ever seen. It was a boost in screen-to-body ratio, it was adding curved corners, it was improving the speed to levels we have never seen on a wearable capable before, it was a design change. Physically, it looked different, it felt different with the updated digital crown. Also was adding health features that we have never seen on wearables before, like the ECG sensor, and Apple is working constantly to get that sensor brought to many, many more countries, as many as possible. And what they've done with the Series 4 is great. It's fantastic, and I think it's easily become the best smartwatch on the market, easily across the world. It just also happens to be the most expensive one. So you get what you pay for right now in the wearable department, but it's smart to assume that once you have a massive upgrade like the Apple Watch Series 4 was, that's inevitably going to be followed by a very much S year, and a year where you don't see a lot of design changes. You don't see a lot of massive noticeable upgrades because the company just put their best foot forward and they just made this extreme upgrade that it's likely they're not going to be able to create such a giant impact again, right? They're not going to be able to duplicate what they've already accomplished. It's simply not possible. But what people I don't think are considering when thinking about the Apple Watch Series 5 is the previous generation Apple Watches that have come out have had noticeable room for improvement. Usually anytime an Apple Watch dropped, there was something fairly substantial or fairly noticeable that people agreed it needed some fixing, needed some updating. If you look back with the Apple Watch Series 0, the very first edition Apple Watch, a lot of people agreed the apps took way too long to open, the CPU was far too slow, there was so much latency, there was so much lag, and it needed some more independence from the phone. The Apple Watch Series 2 was a great upgrade in a lot of ways because, for one, it had improved silicon on the inside so apps could load faster, and of course the great selling point of now being IP68 water resistant up to 50 meters deep, which is way deeper than anyone actually swims with. So basically they were telling everyone it's waterproof now. You can swim with this, you can wear it in the shower, and they were heavily marketing about how water resistant, though you might as well just call it waterproof at this point, though legally they're not supposed to go there. But yes, the Apple Watch Series 2 was practically waterproof, and a lot of people upgraded to it then because the CPU had been boosted, the display had gotten brighter than before, and it was overall just a much needed and much appreciated upgrade. Though there was still that criticism with the Series 2 that it does need a little bit more independence from the iPhone, and wouldn't it be great if I could continue to use my Apple Watch while it's away from my iPhone? That's when Series 3 enters the picture, which design-wise was not a huge upgrade, but included a lot of the upgrades you would come to expect with any old annual refresh. So you got a faster CPU, which was good. And of course, the biggest selling point being it had a cellular option. They also happened to improve the speaker so that you could hear Siri talk out of the Apple Watch Series 3 speaker itself. Kind of incremental, kind of not that noticeable, but it is there, and there were people who appreciated it, and we're glad that it was added. The cellular, though, was definitely a huge selling point for a lot of people who wanted to leave their iPhones behind, whether it be working out or swimming in the ocean, and be in places where ordinarily you couldn't take your iPhone, but still be connected to the world via text messages or phone calls, and you knew that in an emergency someone could still get a hold of you even if you didn't have an iPhone with you. And I even talked about, in my experience with testing out the cellular Apple Watch Series 3, it was very freeing to know that, okay, I don't have this device that's full of distractions between Twitter and YouTube and social media, but in the event of an emergency and someone needs to get a hold of me to know where I am or if there's something I need to attend to, the Apple Watch will allow you to have all of those necessities without the distractions that a smartphone usually accompanies itself with. So the cellular Series 3 was a much needed upgrade, but even after adding all of this performance and speed, people knew the Apple Watch had looked practically the same and had that same standard design for years now. It needed something more. It needed needed something big and it needed to be noticeable. That's where the Series 4 stepped in. For one, extremely noticeable CPU improvements. Now, restarting my Apple Watch and having software updates come to the Series 4, it's way more noticeable than before, and of course the design was huge. The digital crown haptic feedback, the display being more expansive and the thinner bezels, the huge speaker that now accompanies onto the left of the Apple Watch, and the microphone moved to the side. It was easily a super cycle for the Apple Watch line because a ton of people upgraded to it once it came out because they knew design refreshes don't happen every year. So if you upgrade to the Series 4, it's going to look like the latest gen Apple Watch for years to come. Now comes the next problem. Now that I've given you kind of a overlay of the Apple Watch history of getting useful and important features, but there's still that upgradable room that people are like, okay, it's cool and all, but it really needs this. With the Series 5 this September, that list of things that it really needs is quite small. If anything, the most common complaint people would have with the Series 4 is it just needs to be cheaper. It's a great overall watch, ships with an incredible display, design, software, ECG sensor, health features. It ships with an amazing array of life assistive features, but it's just a little bit too expensive. But you really don't need to refresh the whole Apple Watch, do you? To get a product cheaper, you just need to lower the price point. So what can they really add hardware-wise with the Series 5 that's going to warrant people to upgrade? I imagine a lot of your instant gut reactions is just better battery life, but we already know from watchOS 6 and iOS 13 that Apple doesn't really have much interest in doing sleep tracking outside of being tested internally with some companies they've purchased in the past. But in regards to incorporating sleep tracking into the activity ring or pushing a big health message with how to sleep better, Apple's shown very little interest in that. They just care about preserving your hearing and, of course, your physical activity throughout the day. Plus, most people already understand between the Series 4 and 3 that the battery life can easily last you 2 days, maybe even 3, depending on how often you use it. So getting the battery life from 3 days to 4 to 5 days, sure, it could be helpful for people who don't want to put their watch on the charger every night, but we all have to put our iPhone on the charger every night anyway. So how is it much more of a burden to just throw in the Apple Watch along with it? The battery life is not something that's exceptionally bad. It's just one of those things that can always get better. There's no limit to how good a battery life can be on a product. So I don't really see that as the next big feature. With the last generation Apple Watches, I can name you the biggest feature that sold the product. With the Series 2, it was water resistance. With the Series 3, it was cellular. With the Series 4, it was the display, plus the dozen other crazy things they added with the Series 4. No doubt this was a huge upgrade, but what is it going to be with the Series 5? I'm really having a hard time understanding that because all they really can do with the Series 5 is small, tiny, incremental upgrades. Like the CPU is a little faster. Maybe the battery life is a little longer. Maybe the speaker got a little bit louder, or perhaps there's something that's so individualistic that it's not really worth it to everyone, but just worth it to a few people, like glucose monitoring for diabetics. That could be a super helpful and great feature for them to add, but it's not going to be something everyone needs, just maybe a few people. So that brings me to the sad part of the Apple Watch line is it may have peaked a little early. It may have gotten to the point where it doesn't make sense for Apple to release a new Apple Watch every single year. It's not like the iPhone upgrade program where, you know, there's certain people who are waiting to upgrade their iPhone and they have a 6 or a 7. So they're waiting for the iPhone XS to get cheaper, or they're waiting for the iPhone 11 to drop so that they can have a very substantial upgrade. Or people who signed up for the iPhone upgrade program, they're promised a new iPhone every single year. Apple has to abide by that contract. Apple could not suddenly say, let's just release a new iPhone every other year. In a way, they already do because of all of the incremental upgrades we're seeing. You know, iPhone 10 to 10S, not that big a deal. An iPhone 10S to 11 is also not going to be super major, but for those people who pay for the iPhone upgrade program monthly, yeah, they're at least going to get the latest iPhone every year. But there's no Apple Watch upgrade program. So if it's literally just the same design as the 4 and it's the CPU that's a little faster and the speaker's a little louder, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to justify an $800 purchase again. You know, with all of the insane changes and features brought with the Series 4, I could justify it. But given the little amount of leaks and the fact that the biggest change with the Series 5 that Quo had to tell us about was essentially the Apple Watch Edition maybe coming back, you know, $1,400, probably this time around $1,500 for a new watch that'll just be made of a slightly different material than the one I already have. Now, I'm not saying I'm not going to buy it. I'll probably buy it and review it for you guys when it drops, but oftentimes if I can't find a use for a product I review, I will end up returning it for the savings of money to put that money towards something where it can be more appreciated than just a slightly different looking watch. But yeah, I honestly think that they're not going to have much to talk about in September. number. Dare I say, maybe not release a Series 5 at all. Perhaps they just need to discount the Series 4 or discount the Series 3 even more heavily, because honestly, what can they bring to the Series 5 that will warrant a whole number upgrade, that will warrant people to upgrade their watches again? Frankly, I feel like I could not get the Series 5 and then just tell you all I did and just point at the Series 4 and say, no, yeah, that's the Series 5. I'm wearing it today. And the sad thing is, no one would be able to notice, because design-wise, I doubt much is going to be changing. Maybe the speaker grill will adapt slightly, or the sensors on the inside of the watch that you can't see unless you take it off. I'm sure there's some tiny things they could add to the Series 5, but frankly, this year is not going to be a big year at all. And on top of that, it's probably going to be the smallest upgrade to the Apple Watch line we've ever seen after all these years of Apple Watch upgrades. It's gonna be a small change. It's not going to be major, and to me, a slightly faster CPU, even though this one is plenty fast already, or slightly better battery life, which my watch already lasts me several days at a time, it's not gonna be worth an $800, $500 purchase to me. But I, of course, wanna know what you guys think of all the things I talked about today. What's the big flagship feature you guys think the Series 5 needs to have? Is it just an always-on display? Because that's something they could have already added via software, and they haven't yet. So if they haven't done it via software updates, what makes you think they're going to add it via hardware updates? Doesn't make sense to me. But of course, I want to hear what you guys are thinking, so make sure to follow me over on Twitter or join our Discord and we can talk more about the Series 5, why I think I might just end up sticking with my Series 4 for another year, and what major features you guys think they need to add to make it a worthy upgrade. This is your Apple Sheep here, and I will see you in the next one.